Hello students, welcome to the daily news analysis. I am your educator Prithviraj Singh. Today we will be understanding the important news articles of 8th of February 2022. Let us start with the session. So students, on the screen, these are the articles that we are gonna discuss. And here today I have included one article from Indian Express also, because I felt that this was an important article with regard to some changes in the IS services, so therefore I have included this article also. Let us start with the first article. Students, in the Hindu newspaper there was a news article with regard to Iran nuclear deal. Now we all know, students, that Iran was actually clandestinely developing the nuclear power reactors, and Iran became a threat to the whole world because of its secret nuclear programs, and it was doing the uranium enrichment. Now many countries like America were against them, were against Iran, because Iran was a signatory of the NPT, non-proliferation treaty, and then also it was going ahead with the uranium enrichment, and that too for the for the military use. So therefore America started imposing sanctions over Iran. Many diplomatic sanctions, trade sanctions were being imposed over Iran, but still Iran was not stopping its acts. Then a negotiations started between the Western countries headed by United States and some European countries like UK, France, Germany, and it led to a joint agreement between Iran and the Western forces, and this joint agreement was signed in the year 2015, and this was called as Joint Comprehensive Program of Action, Jcpoa. Under Jcpoa, the Western powers would be lifting up their restrictions or sanctions which they have imposed over Iran, on the condition that Iran stops the nuclear stockpile. Iran stops any nuclear enrichment programs, and it make its nuclear reactors open for inspections or international inspections. Jcpoa was working good, but America, seeing that Iran is still not stopping over its nuclear stockpile or building over its nuclear reactors, withdraw from the agreement. It was Donald Trump, the president of America, in the year 2018. He came out from Jcpoa and thus thus withdrew from the agreement, and then imposed restrictions over Iran. Right. So the restrictions or the impositions or the sanctions which were lifted because of Jcpoa were again being imposed by America, the moment Donald Trump and the America came out from the Jcpoa. Right. Now post that, Iran, the response of Iran was not a calm response. In fact, it started building more nuclear stockpiles. Right. So over all this turmoil, we would be discussing this article. Let us begin. As students, you can see on the screen, recently the meetings are being undergoing at a place called as Vienna in Austria, and here all the important powers, the Western powers, are deliberating that to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, which is called as Jcpoa, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. As I said, that it was dismantled in 2018 by President Donald Trump. Now the issue is that Iran is rapidly increasing its nuclear stockpiles after the US came out from the deal, and America wants that the ballistic missile stockpile that Iran has must be stopped and must be reduced, plus the proxy conflicts that Iran is involved into must also be stopped. Now in order to understand the article, we must have a look at the political map of Iran. On the screen, students, you can see Iran, a country which is being shared by the neighboring countries which share its border with Iran are Pakistan, Afghanistan. So the examiner might ask you the question that which among the following countries share their border with Iran. So it is Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey, Iraq. Correct? So these are the countries which are sharing their land borders with Iran. We all know, students, that the capital of Iran is Tehran, and you also would be knowing that China is investing in Pakistan's Gwadar port. So as to get a sea access to China, and it runs through the Pak occupied Kashmir, and it is called as China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. To counter China, India started investing and building Chabahar port. So Chabahar port, which is in Iran, is being built by India, and it is very close to Gwadar. So in this sense, India is countering, China by investing in Chabahar port, and also it has its stakes in Bandar Abbas, which is also being shared by Russia. Right now, political stability in Iran is very important for India. Why? Because many Central Asian countries, because most of the Central Asian countries, almost all the Central Asian countries are landlocked, right? And they have rich mineral resources, and we can access the Central Asian countries through Iran via Afghanistan, right? So therefore, India has invested in Iran, and Chabahar and Bandar Abbas are very important ports from India's perspective. Right. Now, having the understanding of the political geography or geopolitical situation of Iran, we are in position to understand the issue. Let us understand what is uranium. Uranium is a very fissile material, and it can be used in very large scale energy reactors, right? And it is uranium 238, 235, its most fissile isotope, right? And further, it can be divided into low enriched uranium, which is used for fuel for commercial purposes, highly enriched uranium, which is used for research reactors, and the weapon grade uranium, which is 90% enriched or more, right? So uranium enrichment is to increase the uranium element in the isotope, right? So you have two isotopes, U235 and U238. So the process of enrichment uranium 235 into U238 is called as uranium enrichment, and by this the weapon grade uranium can be manufactured. Now moving ahead, about the Jcpoa, as I said that it came into being in the year 2015, and however with effect from 2016. And very importantly, students, the examiner may also ask you that which all countries were the part of Jcpoa. So all the P5 countries, P5 as you all know is the United Nations Security Council, correct? So all the P5 countries, right, all the P5 countries which plus Germany, right? So P5 countries of Security Council are China, France, Russia, UK and United States, right? So these are the major powers, correct? So P5 members or permanent 5 members of Security Council plus Germany, right? And they also have included European Union, right? So Jcpoa includes Iran plus P5 plus Germany, which they call P5 plus 1 plus European Union. So these were the party states in Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, Jcpoa. And under this deal, as I said, that Tehran would be cutting its nuclear stockpile, and in turn of that it requires that the sanctions which are being imposed by United States must be lifted. Now countries like Saudi Arabia are not happy with this deal because they believe that they were not being consulted, and if Iran gets a nuclear arm, you know, or a nuclear weapon, then Saudi is saying that we would also start building the nuclear weapon. Correct. Now how has Iran responded after withdrawal? Right now America withdrew from Jcpoa, but Iran didn't stop, you know, its nuclear stockpiles. It is still building its nuclear stockpile, and it has become a threat to the world. It is going on the lines of North Korea, right, which also is, you know, launching the missiles from its land. Plus Iran is also involved in some proxy wars. There was a drone strike on IRGC Commander General Qasim Suleiman, right, and because America did a drone strike over Qasim Suleiman, a famous, you know, leader of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. He was being killed, and post that Iran announced to the world that it would no longer observe the Jcpoa restraints, right. So therefore, in order to solve this you know, deadlock, the talks are being held at Vienna, where all the Jcpoa countries or parties are, you know, they are deliberating that how we can, you know, revive the Jcpoa deal. The present president of Iran is Ibrahim Raisi, and he has been the president of Iran since August 2021. So they may also ask you that who is the present president of Iran? Ibrahim Raisi. Now the significance of the deal to India, if I say, definitely if the deal is again being revived, it would be a win-win situation for India. Why? Because the sanctions which are being imposed over Iran would be lifted, and therefore India's interest in Chabahar port, which I just mentioned, Bandar Abbas port, you know, can be bolstered. Number one. Number two, India, it would also further help India to neutralize the Chinese presence in Gwadar port, because you know that, as I also explained, that China is you know, investing in Gwadar port. So when after the Jcpoa, India's interest in the Chabahar and Bandar Abbas would be bolstered, and it would in turn help India to neutralize Chinese presence in Gwadar, right. And at the same time, Iran, which is the third largest importer of crude oil in India, right, so we are exporting, you know, crude oil from Iran to a large volume. It is the third largest importer for India, and therefore lifting of sanctions from Iran would also economically help India in procuring the cheap Iranian oil, and it would in turn aid in energy security, right. Otherwise, if the restrictions or sanctions are still there on Iran, it would be detrimental for the oil prices. It would, you know, it would be a negative, I would say, a whammy over the oil prices, and it would in turn lead to inflation in various countries like India, right. So these are some details. As I have mentioned, that although Iran is a signatory to NPT, non-nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which actually, you know, bans the proliferation or expansion of the nuclear stockpile in any country. Definitely India is also a signatory to NPT, which has been in force since 1970, right. And before you know, the present President Hassan Rouhani was ruling the country for almost 7 to 8 years. He was there, the president of Iran, from 2013 till 2021, right. So he just, you know, left the office, and the new president was being elected, Ibrahim Raisi, as you can see, since August 2021. So Hassan Rouhani was there till 2021. Now you can see on the screen data from BBC, the changes agreed under the Iran deal to limit nuclear program. Now guys, these are some nuclear reactors in Iran. So you can see military complex Parchin. So Parchin has been, you know, Parchin is there. Fordo is enrichment energy. It has been converted from fuel enrichment to technology center. Then you have Natanz, now Iran's only uranium enrichment plant, right? Bonab is there, Isfahan is there, Bushehr is there, and a uranium mine is there in Bandar Abbas. So Bandar Abbas is very important for India's interest also, because a uranium mine is there, correct? So Parche, Natanz are the nuclear power plants in Iran, right? So Vienna talks are very important, and it would secure the return of Iran and United States to the 2015 deal, right? So we'll see how it works, and the talks are already going on in Austria, Vienna, right? So these things we have discussed. Now a very important takeaway for exam, INSTC, Indian International North-South Transport Corridor. Now this corridor, it would be very helpful for India if Iran again joins into Jcpoa, right? Because it would, increase or speed up INSTC, which was signed, Jcpoa, which was signed in 2015. If it is being revived, INSTC, right, an international north-south corridor. We have learned, students, in our earlier classes, that how Chabahar port is being linked to the Central Asian countries, including Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Iran. So a international corridor is being built, right, of which India is also a signatory. So if Jcpoa is revived, the INCT work would also be speed up, right? So these are some implications, correct? Now the next news, Operation Ahat. Now guys, we have been seeing increased events of human trafficking, especially at railway stations, where the women and child are being abducted, they are being kidnapped, and they are being sent to some places where they are being made slaves, right? तो ऐसे जो ऑपरेशंस जो हो रहे हैं, जो क्लैंडस्टीन ऑपरेशंस हो रहे हैं किडनैपिंग के, और जो ट्रैफिकिंग के, जो ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग के जो ऑपरेशंस हो रहे हैं, उनको कर्ब करने के लिए देयर इज अ न्यू ऑपरेशन व्हिच हैज स्टार्टेड called as Operation Ahat. Very important, students, for the examination. They may directly ask you on Operation Ahat, and it is Railway Protection Force, RPF, which has started this operation, Operation Ahat, and to actually rescue the victims, particularly women and children, right? So involved in trafficking, which become the victim of human trafficking, correct? So Operation Ahat is very important. Now the next news, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, also called as UAPA, right? Now guys, recently this was in the news because Tripura police and the Tripura government have been repeatedly sending notices of UAPA to various journalists, activists, and people who are tweeting on the against the violence in the state, right? So they are tweeting for the against the violence which is taking in the state, and they have been booked under UAPA. Now Supreme Court is actually saying that you cannot use UAPA just like that. So let us understand UAPA. Now guys, UAPA is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and it, as the name suggests, unlawful activities. So all those activities which are detrimental to the interest of the state, which are against the interest of the state, would be prevented, right? So it talks about, very important, it came into the year 1967, right? So it's an old act passed by the parliament, and it talks about effective prevention of unlawful activities associations in India, right? So prevention of unlawful activities association in India. So all the associations, right, which are involved in unlawful activities would be banned. We all know, students, we have Article 19 which gives you right to freedom. Right to freedom. Under this we have clause Article 19, clause 1 subclause C, which says every citizen has right to form associations, unions and cooperative societies. Right, so that means citizens can form associations, but those associations, you know, should be peaceful. That means all the clauses under Article 19 are subject to restrictions. They are subject to restrictions of national security and integrity of the So if any association is against the national security and integrity of the country, if any association is a threat to public order and morality in the society, then such associations would be declared illegal, would be banned. And the act is also there, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967, which would put a effective prevention of unlawful activities associations in India. So in this sense, students, it assigns absolute power, right? Absolute power means सारे powers central government के पास है. So absolute powers have been given to the central government, which can notify such organizations and can ban them, right? Now the punishment for them, for the members of such organizations, is death penalty or life imprisonment, right, as the highest punishments, right? Now students, towards the end of October 2021, many mosques and some shop and houses which were belonging to minority Muslim community in Tripura state were being, you know, vandalized. Many were burnt and many were vandalized, correct? And because it was a repercussion of the communal violence which was going on in Bangladesh, anti-Hindu riots which are actually going in Bangladesh, right, where the many Hindu temples are being vandalized, they are being demolished, they are being, you know, destructed, many Hindu men and women are being killed, correct? So as a response to that, you know, Indian Hindus also started, you know, showing atrocities, inflicting atrocities against the Muslim community in Tripura, right? Now, so the government, Tripura police and the government is invoking UAPA. So UAPA would be banning such associations which are unlawful, right? And it came in the year 1967. Let us understand the intricacies of UAPA. Now, very important, and I expect a question being asked on these lines. Both Indian as well as foreign nationals can be charged, right? So that means if a foreign national or a foreigner or a foreign citizen is involved in such unlawful association, he would also be charged, right? So it is both for Indian as well as foreign nationals, number one. Number two, even if the crime is being committed, you know, even if the crime is being committed on the foreign land, right? So even if the crime is committed in the foreign land outside India, but it is detrimental to the interest of India, then also such organizations would be booked under UAPA 1967. And the investigative agency, you know, which is investigating the case, can file a charge sheet in maximum 180 days after the arrest, right? So it is a speedy, I would say, trial, and within 180 days after the arrest, the charge sheet has to be given, right? Now, some important amendments were being made to the UAPA 1967, and it actually, you know, received heavy criticism across the society. तो 2019 में अमेंडमेंट आया था और उसके अंदर कुछ चेंजेस आए थे UAPA 1967 के अंदर. लेट अस डिस्कस दैम. नाउ द अमेंडमेंट टू UAPA has empowered the Director General of NIA, National Investigation Agency, to grant approval of seizure or attachment of property, right? That means the DG of NIA is being given power to seize the properties associated with such unlawful associations, right? So he can single-handedly declare them, seize them, all the properties of the unlawful associations, number one. And the provision which was severely criticized was the second one. The act empowers the officers of NIA of the rank inspector and above to investigate cases of terrorism in addition to those conducted by the DSP or ASP or above rank officer in the state, right? So once they are investigating the cases of terrorism, and this was something which was very much in news, right? It also included the provision of designating an individual as terrorist, right? So the officers above the rank of inspector, you know, can designate an individual who is involved in UAPA as terrorist, and this was very much in the news. This amendment of 2019, this provision was very much in news. Now Delhi High Court has also defined the broad contours of UAPA. In June 2021, the Delhi High Court, as students I keep on saying that Delhi High Court is much more powerful than the Supreme Court of India because of the judgments that has come from Delhi High Court. In June 2021, right, just last year, it defined the contours of the otherwise vague section of section 15, correct? So the vague section 15, the section 15 was very vague, right, and it has defined the broad contours of this section, right? So section 15, which talks about engrafting the offense of terrorist act, that means declaring that any particular act is an act of terror under section 15, which was vague. Vague means which was unclear, ambiguous, right, and confusing. So Delhi High Court has, you know, come up with some broad contours to define section 15, 17, 18, right? So still the government is actually, you know, using UAPA to book many individuals, and more reforms are required over the same. Now moving to the next news, guys. Kamal Tiger Reserve. Now it was recently in the news for the reason that it is going to host the first ever bird walk, where the the bird lovers across the world would throng this place and would, you know, do the bird photography and would, you know, would deliberate over the preservation of the species, right? So Kamal Tiger Reserve is going to host its first ever bird walk on February 12 and 13. Now Kamal Tiger Reserve is located in Telangana, and this tiger reserve is a part of the oldest sanctuary. The reserve is the oldest sanctuary in the northern Telangana region of the state, right? Very importantly, students, it is located at the catchment area of river Godavari and Kadam river, right? We all know, student, Godavari river is also called as Dakshin Ganga. Because it is the longest, I would say, longest peninsular river. So generally the examiner asks you the question that arrange these rivers from north to south. So first you have Mahanadi, then you have Godavari, then Krishna, and then Kaveri, and they all are, guys, east flowing rivers, right? Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, right? So over Godavari river, which is also called as Dakshin Ganga because it is the longest peninsular river, near that you have Kamal Tiger Reserve, right? And over Kamal Tiger Reserve, a bird walk is being organized in the next week of February, right? So it is located in Telangana, and it is the oldest sanctuary in the northern Telangana. So Kamal Tiger Reserve to be noted. So here is the geographical map of Kamal Wildlife Sanctuary, and you can see that in Telangana it's there, and here you have Godavari river flowing, and it is also being met by Kadam river, Kadam reservoir, right? Now guys, the next news, universalizing the maternity benefit scheme. So many activists in the country are saying that the maternity benefit scheme must be universalized, because recently the government has said that under Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandan Yojana PMMVY, which was launched in the year 2019, and PMMVY Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, it actually provides rupees 5,000 for the birth of the first child, right? So for the birth of first child, the the mother would be getting 5,000 rupees, and recently the government has extended, announced that the cover would be extended for the second child also, provided that it is only a girl. That means if the second child is a girl child, then the 5,000 rupees maternity benefit that a mother receives in the first child, for the first child, would be extended to the second child also, but the second child should be girl child only, right? And the same condition is not applicable for the first child, right? Now, because of such, I would say, genderization, it has met with sharp criticism from activists who are demanding that why not universalizing it, irrespective of the gender of the second child. Why not universalize it, extend it to the second child also, irrespective of the gender, right? So very important, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, and they may ask you what is the sum which is being provided, what is the benefit, maternity benefit which is provided. So it is rupees 5,000 for the first child, correct? Now, so PMMVY is being clubbed with another scheme called as Janani Suraksha Yojana, and under Janani Suraksha Yojana, 1,000 rupees is given for an institutional birth. So if it is a hospital birth or institutional birth, then 1,000 rupees is given in addition to 5,000 rupees, right? So a mother would be getting 5,000 plus 1,000, that means 6,000 rupees in total, right? So the government has announced that this 6,000 rupees would be extended to the second child also. The condition is that the second child should be a girl child. Now the activists are saying that it should not be restricted to the girl child, but irrespective of the gender, the scheme must be extended to the second child, irrespective of the gender, right? So here, if I talk about the National Food Security Act of 2013, NFSA 2013, it lays down that every pregnant woman and lactating mother, they call them PWLM, every PWLM are entitled to the maternity benefit. So as per National Food Security Act of 2013, the maternity benefit is to be availed by the mother, by the PWLM or pregnant women and the lactating mother, so this is also must be taken into account. NFSA, National Food Security Act 2013. Now if I talk about the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, which gives the maternity benefit of 5,000 rupees for the birth of the first child, correct? And at the same time it also talks about the nutritional well-being, to improve the nutritional level of the mother and the child, right? So in this sense, guys, both the child and the mother are included, correct? And there is a synergy between the schemes, wherein Janani Suraksha Yojana, which has 1,000 rupees for the institutional delivery, would also be clubbed with 5,000. So in this sense it is 6,000, right? So we have already learned this. Now the condition here is that all PWLM, all pregnant women and lactating mothers, excluding PWLM who are the regular employees in central government and the state government PSUs, right? So all PWLM are included, right? Except for those PWLM who are the employee of central government or the state government. So the scheme says that they don't require this benefit because they are already employee of the central and the state government, so therefore the benefit must not be given to them, right? Now guys, so this is how it's there, and all the things which we have discussed are being shared here. Although this article saying that there has been a less budget allocation for PMMVY this time, and it has to be increased. Now let us talk about the new article, the next article about Prime Minister Cares Fund, right? Pradhan Mantri Cares Fund, correct? And the audit report for the same has been come out, and the audit report says that 1/3 of the total 10,990 crore which are there in PM Cares has been already spent or utilized. So let us understand the PM Cares. Now PM Cares is a public charitable trust, correct? And the chairman of the PM Cares, see, it is a public charitable trust and the chairman is definitely the Prime Minister. Generally students would be confusing themselves that is PM Cares just related to the COVID relief works? No, it is related to all the emergencies, right? All the emergencies or any natural disaster. Let's say a flood even take place, or there is a earthquake and it results into large scale casualties, large scale destruction, loss of property. So the funds from the PM Cares would be used to for the relief of such events in the such events also, right? So the relief package is not limited just to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it includes all the disasters, including the natural disasters, correct? The Prime Minister is the chairman, plus the other members of this trust are the Minister of Defense, then Minister of Home Affairs, Finance Minister are the ex-officio trustees of the fund, right? So, and they all hold the office in pro bono capacity. Pro bono means without any payment, so it is an honorary post, right? Now the objectives of Prime Minister Cares, as I have just mentioned, that it relates to a public health emergency or any other kind of emergency, calamity or distress, either man-made or natural. So here is the catch, and they may actually confuse you over this area. So it is related to both man-made as well as natural calamity. तो जो PM Cares है वो केवल कोविड के रिलेटेड या किसी हेल्थ डिजास्टर से रिलेटेड नहीं है, इट इज़ ऑल्सो रिलेटेड टू नेचुरल डिजास्टर, राइट? सो जो फंड उसके अंदर जो आएगा, जो क्राउड फंडिंग होगी, बिकॉज यू मे बी नोइंग दैट PM Cares के अंदर फंड सेलिब्रिटीज़ ने भी दिए थे, कॉमन मैन ने भी दिए थे, कई गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल्स ने भी दिए थे, कई लोगों की सैलरी जो है उसके लिए उन्होंने वहाँ पे जो है अलोकेट करी थी. सो फंड विच इज़ बीइंग यूज्ड for the relief works for any man-made or natural disaster, right? Now, so it is being formed, it is because it is a trust, so it is being formed under Registration Act of 1908 at New Delhi in the month of March 2020. So just after the pandemic hit us, the first lockdown was imposed, and right on 27th March 2020 the PM Cares Fund was being formed, right? And those who are actually donating in PM Cares Fund, they would qualify as such fundings would be qualified as CSR, corporate social responsibility. So they are the part of a CSR expenditure, right? And the companies may get the benefit in the deductions, right? So they can always claim them as CSR expenditures. Now moving to the next news, government has seeked the domestic solar equipment manufacturing capacity of 25 gigawatt each by April 23. So government is pumping into the solar energy, because you all would be knowing, guys, that Prime Minister Modi went to attend the Conference of Parties 26 held at Glasgow, Scotland. Yes, and there he has given a very ambitious target that India would be building a renewable energy target, or India will be meeting a renewable energy target of 500 gigawatt by the year 2030, right? So in order to achieve that target, the government has decided to pump up its solar energy in India. So the solar power capacity has increased by more than 5 times in the last 5 years, from 6.7 gigawatt to 40 gigawatt. So it's a very important development. So guys, as in order to achieve the ambitious target of 500 gigawatt by renewable energy target of 500 gigawatt by the year 2030, government is pumping its solar power energy, right? and we are going in the right direction. Today, if I talk, we have around 200 gigawatts of renewable energy. So if we go by this, with this progress, we would definitely achieve the 500 gigawatt target by the year 2030. So government has built up 42 solar parks with 23,000 megawatt have been approved, right? And recently the solar park at Pavagadh in Gujarat, Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh, and Bhadla in Rajasthan included in the top 5 operational solar parks of 7 gigawatt capacity in the country. So very important. So they may ask you that Pavagadh solar plant is in which state, where is Kurnool solar plant located, and Bhadla. So Bhadla is near Jodhpur, very important, and it has around 1 gigawatt capacity, right? Now very important, and this is a recent development, and I expect a question to be asked on this world's largest renewable energy park of 30 gigawatt, right? 30 gigawatt, right? Imagine 30 gigawatt, and here you have 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt, correct? And today we have the total capacity 40 gigawatt. So if this 30 gigawatt would be added to 40 gigawatt, we would be actually around 70 to 80 gigawatt of coming from the solar energy itself, right? Now the world, and it would be the world's largest renewable energy park. Now it has been built in Gujarat, also called as Gujarat Hybrid Renewable Energy Park, and it is located at a village Vigakot near Kutch. I repeat, the Gujarat Hybrid Renewable Energy Park would be the world's largest renewable energy park with 30 gigawatt capacity solar wind hybrid power project. Now here the catch is, it is a hybrid power project in the sense it is including both the sources of energy, renewable sources of energy, the wind as well as the solar power, right? So Gujarat Hybrid Renewable Energy Park at Vigakot, very important. The next slide. Now the solar industry has also been included in the PLI, production linked incentive, where the government would be giving them some subsidies and would also give an extra budget, would also allocate an extra budget to these sectors. So solar energy sector has been included under the PLI. In the budget we have mentioned that the 14 sectors have been today included under PLI, and this would result into around 30 lakh, it would result into generation of 30 lakh jobs, right? So very important, it has been included under PLI scheme or production linked incentive scheme, and India is planning to impose a basic custom duty of 40% on modules and 25% on solar cell imports from 1st of April, right? So in order to protect the domestic producers of solar panels, the government has increased the custom duty so that the domestic producers are being protected. Now a bit of detail about the International Solar Alliance and the COP26. Now there have been many actually actors should be given the credit for the increase in the solar energy base in India. The first and the foremost is definitely the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Guys, we have a separate ministry called as Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE. So very important, a separate industry, a distinct industry is there, new and renewable energy, and it has set up a regulator called as Solar Energy Corporation of India, correct? SECI, or Solar Energy Corporation of India. And in this sense, it has led India to become 5th largest solar installer in the world. So India is the 5th largest solar installer in the world thanks to MNRE and the SECI, right? And also the National Solar Mission is also being launched in the year 2010, and it has also resulted into many efforts who are being done by National Solar Mission. If I compare the cost in the year 2010, it was 17 rupees per unit, and today the cost is being reduced to 2.44 rupees per unit, right? So thanks to this National Solar Mission and the efforts of Ministry of New and Renewable Energy and the competitive tariff based bidding that they do. Apart from that, even Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission is also important, and it has also been the important driver in the solar development in India, and MNRE has also been set up various solar parks in India under its MNRE solar park policy, right? So these are the details here mentioned. Apart from that, we also have a low cost labor available in India, so that is also has given a boost to the solar power sector in India. Plus India is very highly price sensitive market, right? And therefore, because of the competitive bidding, the price per unit and the solar panel has been reduced, right? So now talking about an article from the Indian Express newspaper. So I am not limiting myself to the Hindu, but I have also included one important news article from Indian Express. Now there was an article which talked about upsetting the balance. It was in the editorial, and the central government has proposed some amendments to the IAS cadre rules. Let us understand what are these amendments and how it would affect the center-state relations. Now we know, students, that all India services are those services which are of all India nature. That means they are recruited by the center, they are recruited and trained by the center, and they serve in various states. For example, IAS, IPS, right? And the Indian foreign services. Although Indian foreign services are something which must not be included here, instead Indian forest services should be included here, right? So apart from, so instead of Indian foreign services, which is a central service, we must include Indian forest services, right? So IAS, IPS and Indian forest services are called as all India services. All India means because of their all India nature. All India nature means when you will become an IAS officer, you would be recruited by UPSC, you would be trained at Labasna, correct? So in this sense, the central government would be more bothered about your recruitment and training, whereas you will be given different cadres like Rajasthan state, it may be Andhra Pradesh state or MP state, and then you would be serving for your life into that state. So such services are called as all India services, right? Like IAS, IPS. So IAS in Rajasthan, you know, is being recruited by UPSC, but he is serving as a IAS officer in Rajasthan, right? Similarly, IPS officer is serving in Rajasthan cadre, but he is being recruited by the UPSC, correct? So that is your all India services which have all India nature, right? Now when I talk about central services are different from all India services. For example, IRS, Indian Revenue Services, they are being recruited, trained by central government, and they always are work under the central government. That means IRS officer may be appointed, you know, at any place in the country, right? Whereas IAS, IPS and IFOS officers are being given the cadres, various states are being allocated to them, and they serve as the officers throughout their life in that particular state, right? So they were created under All India Services Act of 1951. Very important, students. The article which talks about the all India services is article 312, article 312, and the examiner might ask you on these lines, article 312, right? So they are recruited by the central government and are placed under various state cadres, for example Rajasthan cadre, right? Now it is incumbent upon the members of the service to both under center and state and the center, right? See, students, the immediate control over any IAS or IPS officer is that of the state government. For example, a IAS or IPS officer working in Rajasthan is under immediate control of the government of Rajasthan, but the ultimate control is that of the central government, correct? So the ultimate control or the final control is that of the central government, right? So the intra-state transfers, for example, a IPS officer, you know, transferred from, let's say, Jaipur to Jodhpur, you know, so the rules he would be transferred based on the state government's direction, right? So the immediate control is that of the state government and the ultimate control is that of the central government, correct? Now to ensure the service of IAS officers at the center, suit been made under IAS cadre rules 1954. Now guys, these rules of the year 1954 which ensure the service of IAS officers at the center, because you might be knowing that many officers are also being deputed at the center. For example, an IPS officer, senior IPS officer being deputed in Ministry of Defense, correct? A senior IAS officer, right? Let's say the officer of the ranking chief secretary being deputed in let's say Ministry of Home Affairs or Ministry of External Affairs or Ministry of Finance, right? So, and they work, and this is being done by IAS Cadre Rules 1954, correct? So the government has proposed some changes in this rule, right? Now IAS service regulations provide for central deputation reserve not exceeding 40% of the sanctioned duty post, right? So that means any deputation, so this is called as deputation, means any officer from going from state to central government on deputation. That means for time being, for a particular time period, a officer is being deputed into the central government. This is called as deputation. Now they say that it should not be exceeding 40% of the sanctioned duty post, correct? And the central deputation quota fixes the share of the government, out of the state cadre, correct? Now, and according to Rule 1, a cadre officer may, with the concurrence of the state government concerned and the central government, be deputed for services under the central government. अब see here, जो मैं आपको rules की बात कर रहा था, IAS Cadre Rules 1954, उसके अंदर यहाँ clearly लिखा है कि a cadre officer may, with the concurrence of, the word concurrence means केवल state government जब उनको अप्रूवल देगा तब ही वो ऑफिसर जो है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के अंदर डिप्यूट हो सकता है, किसी भी डिपार्टमेंट डिप्यूट हो सकता है, राइट? सो कैडर ऑफिसर may, with the concurrence of the state governments concerned, right? If let's say IPS officer of Rajasthan have to be deputed to central government, so the central government has to take the assent, concurrence of the government of Rajasthan, right? Be deputed for services under the central government or another state government, correct? Whether incorporated not, which is wholly or substantially owned, right? So this concurrence word has been, because the government is proposing under its new rules कि ये कंकरेंस जो वर्ड है इसको हटा दिया जाए. अगर इस वर्ड को अगर हटा दिया जाए कंकरेंस को, तो इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट वुड हैव देयर ओन से इन द डिप्यूटेशन ऑफ एनी ऑफिसर टू देयर डिपार्टमेंट्स, एंड द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स वोंट हैव effective say in such cases, correct? So the rule provides that in case of a disagreement between the center and the state, the matter shall be decided by the central government, and the state government shall give effect to the decision, right? Now the changes or the amendments which the central government has proposed to Rule 6(1) of the Cadre Rules 1954 is that it provides that in case of any disagreement, the matter shall be decided by the central and the state government. And the new insertion is here, students: each state government shall make available for deputation to the central government adjusted proportionately by the number of officers available in the state government, right? That means the state government would be allocating those officers in proportion to the strength of the state cadre, correct? And the concurrence word, the government is proposing the concurrence word to be removed. So this would be a very detrimental to the center state relations, guys, and it would adversely affect the central center state relations, right? And they won't have any effective say in the deputation of the officers, correct? So Article 309 of the Constitution, the center and the state are empowered to erect and maintain services for running their administration, and both the center and the states exercises full control over services independently of each other. So मैंने जैसा आपको बताया था आर्टिकल 13 के बारे में, तो वो ये यहाँ पे मेंशन है आर्टिकल 312, अनलाइक, राइट? सो ऑल इंडिया सर्विसेज कम्स अंडर आर्टिकल 312, राइट? तो ये इशू है जो कि न्यूज़ के अंदर आ रहा है, जो कि सेंट्रल स्टेट रिलेशंस को एडवर्सली इफेक्ट करेगा, राइट? तो you can see that seek to do away with the consent of both the officer and the state government. Very importantly, जो मैं consent की बात कर रहा था, concurrence की बात कर रहा था कि with concurrence of state government only it can be done, so that concurrence they are actually proposing to remove. So in this way it is a move towards greater centralization of the IAS officers, right? So that means the power comes to in the hands of the central government, right? And this would in turn disrupt the delicate balance between the center and the state, correct? And the state fear losing their key officers to conscribed central deputation, right? And it has also rendered the civil services board useless, right? So this was the issue, and so as far as your exams are concerned, they may ask you about which article talks about All India services. So it is article 312, correct? And the All India service cadre rules, which year? So it is All India cadre services cadre rules 1954, and the proposed changes, correct? So this is there, right? So guys, I hope you enjoyed the session. So that's all for today. I'll see you in the next class tomorrow. Good day, goodbye.